Akhandamandalakaram Vyaptam Yena Characharam Tatpadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhaktarupaswarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam Namah Pankajanabhaya Namah Pankajamaline Namah Pankajanetraya Namaste Pankajangraye Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devi Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopakumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsachanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Sarvebhyo Namaha Sarvesham Krute Swagatam. We move on in the 10th chapter of Bhagavad-gita. We have done already 9 shlokas. In the very last session, we did these 2 shlokas. I'll revise them. Before I go forward, I will also mention that we are now in the middle of a set of 4 shlokas, which are considered the essence of the whole Bhagavad-gita. If the entire message of the Gita can be summarized in 4 verses. Okay, so 10.8 is this. Aham sarvasya prabhu mattah sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddhaha bhava samanvitaha. Shri Bhagavan says that I am the origin of everything and all phenomena are initiated from me. And knowing this, the intelligent people endowed with love, they engage in my service. So this we saw in the last class. Then what do they do? When he says engage in his service with love, what exactly do they do? Mat chittaha mat gata pranaha bodhayantav parasparam kathayantascha mam nityam tushyanti cha ramanti cha. So their minds are fully absorbed in me. Their pran, their vital energies are inside me, are in me, reside in me. And they are always informing each other about me. They are narrating my leelas. They talk about me. They narrate my stories. And in this manner, they feel a lot of satisfaction, pleasure, delight, joy. They're always happy because of this. So this is the path of bhakti. The essential activities of bhakti have been summarized in this shloka, 10.9. So these 2 shlokas, 10.8 and 10.9, we saw in the last session. And now, today's session, we will go forward to the next 2 shlokas. They describe how Sri Bhagavan reciprocates with his bhaktas. Those who engage in this process of bhakti yoga, which is described in shloka number 9, how does he reciprocate with them? What does he do? Does he just sit quietly and watch them? Or does he do something to make it easier for them? So 10.10. Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam pritipurvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayantite. So he says, Tesham, of those people, or unto them. You can understand this that way also. Satata yuktanam. Satata means always, continuously or regularly. Satatam. Yuktaha, engaged. Yuktanam, those who are engaged continuously or regularly. Satata yuktanam bhajatam pritipurvakam. Engaged in what? In his loving service. Engaging in his service in bhakti, pritipurvakam, with love, with affection, right? To such people, dadami. The word dadami in Sanskrit means I give. Okay, so I give. What does he give? Buddhi yogam tam. He gives them something called as buddhi yoga. Okay, buddhi yoga basically means the intelligence with which you can connect with him. Okay, just like we say karma yoga means connecting to Sri Bhagavan through our regular duties, karma. Jnana yoga, connecting with Sri Bhagavan through knowledge, spiritual knowledge, realization of the self as being different from the body. Okay, Jnana Yoga. Similarly, Buddhi Yoga here refers to, it's an alternative term for Bhakti, where Sri Bhagavan provides the intelligence. Buddhi Yoga effectively means the intelligence required to connect in Bhakti. Tadami Buddhi Yogam tam yena mam upayantite. Means yena, by which, mam, me, upayanti, attain, they. Te means they in English. So I give them the intelligence by which they can come to me. Okay, so tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yenamam upayanti te. So effectively it says that it's not only the bhakta who is working hard to please Sri Bhagavan. The bhakta is doing that he's doing his job as a bhakta. He does different types of sadhana in the process of bhakti, but Sri Bhagavan reciprocates actively. Immediately when he sees somebody is sincere and wants to come to him from inside, okay, elsewhere in the Gita it is said, Sarvasya chaham hridi sannivishto mattah smritirjnanam apohanam cha. I reside inside everybody. Okay, specifically it says in the region of the heart. Hridi sannivishtaha, I am inside the heart of every living being. Mattah, from me, smritihi, remembrance, jnanam, knowledge, and apohanam, forgetfulness. These three things come from me. So from him comes the required knowledge to do anything that we do. Okay, and that knowledge is provided in accordance with our requirement, what we want to do, and in accordance with the karma that we have. Okay, for example, I may want to do something very big, which will give me a lot of material happiness, but if my karma does not permit that, then that intelligence will not come from inside. So intelligence is given in accordance with our both our desires and the karma that allows us so much to to enjoy or to avail of in this lifetime. But now in the path of bhakti, that karma doesn't matter. What matters is the intent to serve. When somebody has the genuine intention to serve and make progress in bhakti, to purify their consciousness and become closer and closer to Bhagavan, then Sri Bhagavan provides their intelligence with which they can make the right decisions on the path of bhakti and keep moving towards him. Okay, that is why that's how the path of bhakti is different from the other major path that is dealt with in the Bhagavad-Gita. I have told you that very broadly speaking, the Gita deals with two major paths. One is the path of Karma Yoga, come Jnana Yoga, and the other is the path of Bhakti Yoga, which we are talking about now. In the path of Karma and Jnana, the sadhaka, the person who is trying to progress on that path, actually does their duty sincerely with detachment, with the intention of getting pure knowledge, pure spiritual knowledge, and becoming liberated from this material existence. That is their goal, and they are very sincere. They do their duties very sincerely, but they don't approach Bhagavan in the way in which a bhakta approaches him. They don't they don't take refuge in Bhagavan and say that, please guide me, please take over my life. Whatever you want, I will do. I want to live by your principles. Their approach is different. They say that, okay, we will do our duty, and by virtue of doing our duty with detachment, we will become purified, because the Shastra says that. And that's what happens. So when they do their duty with detachment, consciously practicing different types of tapasya and mentally cultivating detachment from within, then automatically they make progress. They become more and more sattvic. So the progress that happens in the path of karma and jnana is to become more and more sattvic. Your rajoguna, tamoguna comes down, become more and more sattvic. And when you become more and more sattvic, automatically spiritual knowledge from inside, the realization of yourself as not this body, but different from the body, as a spiritual being, as an element of Brahman, that becomes more and more evident. That realization dawns from inside. And that is how, on the path of karma and jnana, eventually a very high degree of sattva guna prevails. Person reaches a very high level of sattva guna, and in order to eventually get mukti, mukti means freedom from even sattva guna. It's a state of existence which is even greater than being in sattva. Okay, in the stage of sattva, it's a very nice state because it's full of happiness, it's full of knowledge. You have a very high sense of liberation, but it is not pure liberation. Pure liberation is when you go even beyond sattva and become nirguna. And that is possible. To become nirguna is possible only when you take refuge in Sri Bhagavan and form bhakti. So in the last stage of Jnana Yoga, unless one also performs some bhakti, one cannot get mukti. And that is said in the Gita in the 7th chapter. Daivi hi esha gunamayi mama maya duratyaya mameva ye prapadyante maya metam tarantite mam chayo avyabicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samatitya etan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. So in different places in the Gita, particularly in the 7th chapter, this particular shloka that I cited, and several other shlokas in the Gita point to bhakti as the means for becoming a mukta, becoming liberated from this world. But if somebody has chosen bhakti itself as the path, then there is nothing to worry, because the entire path, right from the beginning till the end, the bhakta just progresses towards mukti. Okay, for him, mukti just depends upon the grace of Bhagavan. By the kripa of Bhagavan, he eventually gets mukti. But the Ananya Bhaktas, we have spoken about this too earlier, that somebody has Shuddha Bhakti, the intention for Shuddha Bhakti in their heart, then even mukti is not their goal. They only want bhakti, they only want to do service, and they relish that service. That mood of service is their ultimate objective. They don't even look for mukti. And if mukti comes, then it's a side effect. It's a, you can say, a byproduct of their efforts in bhakti. So here, Sri Bhagavan is saying, Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam iti purvakam dadami buddhi yugam tam yena mam upayam. And engaged in my service with love, using which they will attain me. They are able to attain me. Okay, now moving forward to the 11th shloka of the 10th chapter. Sri Bhagavan adds to what he just said. Earlier, he said that he provides the intelligence. Now he goes one step further and says, Tesham eva anukampartham, jnana tamaha, nashayami atma bhavastho, jnana deepena bhasvata. Tesham, again, of them, for them, eva, only for them. Eva means only for them. Anukampartham. Anukampartham means anukampa plus artham. Anukampartham. Anukampa. Out of compassion, or for the sake of compassion, or driven by compassion. Whose compassion? His compassion. He is compassionate. All right, so here we are with a very beautiful shloka where Sri Bhagavan reveals his nature as someone who is very compassionate and how he helps the bhakta make progress. Let me now read the translation. It says, for such persons only. Okay, eva, tesham eva means only for such people, the bhaktas who are working hard, endeavoring to come to me. I, out of compassion, destroy the ignorance born darkness, occupying their consciousness with the luminous lamp of knowledge. Okay, so this is Sri Bhagavan's nature. And in the Gita, and even more than the Gita, in the Bhagavatam, in more elaboration in the Bhagavatam, Sri Bhagavan's compassionate nature and his interaction with the bhaktas, how he deals with the bhaktas, his kindness, his wonderful qualities are described. So with these two shlokas, we have completed the set of 4 shlokas where Sri Bhagavan talks about his knowledge about himself, how the bhaktas realizing him has everything as the summum bonum of everything. Everything that matters to them in life is him. This is similar to what he said in the 7th chapter. Bahunam janmanam ante jnanavan mam prapadyate vasudevah sarvamiti sa mahatma sudhurlabha. Okay, a person after many, many births of endeavoring for spiritual perfection eventually concludes that Vasudeva, Krishna, is everything, and then takes my refuge. Vasudeva sarvamiti, such a Mahatma sudurlabha. Such a person is very rare. Now, this is resonating with that. He says that a person takes his shelter or takes his refuge after knowing that he is everything, and then performs bhakti, and from his side, he reciprocates with them and helps them to come to him. So it is said that if you take one step towards Bhagavan, this is a colloquial saying, if you take one step towards Bhagavan, then he will take 100 steps towards you. So that much eagerness is there, even more than we are eager to go to him, he is eager that we come to him. So he is very, very helpful. He's very guiding. So we have been discussing the profile, the biography of a great bhakta by name Bhishma. We will continue from where we left off in the last class. So we've heard about Bhishma's. We've had actually 3 episodes. Now we are in for the fourth part. We heard about how he was a divine personality, Vasu. He was a Vasu by name Dew, and he was born to the king Shantanu, who also was actually a divine personality, born again because of a curse. So both of them, father and son, received 2 different curses from 2 different personalities and were born as 2 human beings. But they lived a very divine life. So Shantanu is the first one, and then his son Bhishma. So we heard about how Bhishma is born as Devavrata to Ganga and Shantanu, and then Ganga eventually leaves Shantanu, leaving Bhishma with him. Then we talked about how Devavrata does an enormous sacrifice for his father's pleasure. Okay, this is the nature of a bhakta. A bhakta is always eager to, live in a manner that is pleasing to Bhagavan, and in the course of acting in for the pleasure of Bhagavan, he also becomes a pleasure for the people with whom he lives. He's always ready to serve. He has a mentality of service, cooperation, harmony. He's very sensitive to other people's needs, their feelings, their emotions. So Bhishma, you can see in Bhishma's character, you see that sensitivity. He realizes the moment he realizes that his father uh, has a has something troubling him, he goes, digs it out, finds out. His father doesn't directly tell him, indirectly tells him something, but he goes and finds out the real reason, and without hesitation, he makes the sacrifice required to give his father what his father wants. Okay, that is an expression of gratitude to one's parents. That okay, if you are happy, then I don't mind sacrificing what could have made me happy. Okay, so for any king, normally a kingdom, having wives, having children, those kind of things make them happy. But here is Bhishma saying that I don't need any of those things. If my father is happy, that's enough for me, and I will live my life without a kingdom, without being a king, without being married, etc., etc. So in return for that, he's blessed. The entire universe appreciates that sacrifice. He's immediately given the title of Bhishma because he has taken that awesome, that magnificent, that wow. And his father also blesses him, saying that you will you will die only when, or death has to take your permission. Literally, that's the words used here. Death has to take your permission to take you away. Death cannot take you unless you permit it to take you. Okay, that's a very powerful boon, and very rarely does someone get a boon like that. Then we heard about how in the following activities that happen, Shantanu marries Satyavati, and then Chitrangada, Vichitravirya are born, and both of them they don't live up to the expectations of a very dharmic king. They are dharmic basically, but they still have that element of foolishness in them. One of them goes around, picking up fights with the other kings, challenging them, getting into war with them. He shows that aspect of a Kshatriya and eventually gets killed by a Gandharva of a similar name. And the second son uh, gets married. That too, Bhishma there plays a big role in his marriage. Bhishma brings 3 princes by his own effort. He goes and brings 3 very highly qualified ladies for him to marry. One of them he permits to go away because she has somebody else in mind. The other two marry Vichitravirya. They are very happy. Actually, last class we discussed about whether it's okay to kidnap or not, but I forgot to mention that eventually, when they marry Vichitravirya, both Ambalika and Ambika and Ambalika who marry Vichitravirya, they are very happy with that. They are very satisfied that they got a highly qualified husband. Okay, so they are not like a kidnapped victim. A victim of a kidnapping will be just, hoping to get rescued by somebody and then go back to where he was. But they are not thinking like that. They are very happy that Bhishma did this, whatever he did, and brought them to Vichitravirya, and they have married now the emperor. So they live a very happy life, Vichitravirya with his 2 beautiful queens. But unfortunately, overindulgence leads to his death as well. He contracts tuberculosis and he dies. So Bhishma did all these things so that the son of Satyavati can become the next king. He crowned Chitrangada the king first, and then Vichitravirya. He fulfilled his promise. And he also said, I will not become the king. That's also a promise which he is upholding. But unfortunately, both of them, they throw it away. They throw it away and they don't live up to their father's expectations. So now the responsibility is still in Bhishma's hands to continue the dynasty. So what happens? Satyavati, in the meantime, Shantanu's queen, Satyavati, whom he has brought with so much difficulty, she is still there and she is the queen, she is the mother queen. And obviously, she is also very concerned about the dynasty going forward. So she goes back to Bhishma, and this is where our story now continues into the fourth episode. So what happens now? So this is in the chapters 103 to 105 of the Adi Parva of Mahabharata. We started with chapter 96, and we are now in the last three chapters of the first part of the story of Bhishma, settling the dynasty and giving the dynasty a course, a route to take. So now, when Satyavati thinks over what can be done to continue the dynasty, she finds that there are two queens here, two princesses, uh, Ambika and Ambalika, and they were actually married, but now they have become widowed. And she goes to Bhishma, and he says he is the only person in her thinking that who can actually create a progeny, and they should be created through them. So she goes to Bhishma and says, now you please do this activity called niyoga. Niyoga means it's an activity by which a man can impregnate a woman who is not his legitimate wife, but in a legitimate process, a process that is arranged by superiors, by elders, by superiors, an arranged process by which a man impregnates a woman to beget a child. And the child who is born will be considered as the child of that woman along with her legitimate husband, not of this person. Okay, that is biologically it is this person's child, but although but even then the person to whom that woman is married and now she has become a widow, her husband will be considered as the father, the dead father of that child. So Satyavati requests Bhishma that please do this, and Bhishma says that no, mother, I have taken a vow and I will not break that vow. I've taken a vow of brahmacharya, and that vow of brahmacharya is a very strong vow, and I cannot break that vow. Whatever happens, I cannot break that vow. Then there's a conversation in the 103rd chapter in which she again asks him. She says, "Please, there's no other way. I mean, if you say no, then the dynasty will stop with this. So I don't see any other way. You only have to do it." Then Bhishma thinks over it and he says that, "Mother, I'll give you a alternate solution." Okay. So now the next chapter, chapter 104, as Bhishma's solution. Bhishma begins by saying that, "Mother, we can do this. We can actually appoint a highly qualified Brahmana to do this." Okay, when you say highly qualified, it doesn't mean qualified as a Brahmana, but he's a Brahmana who's anyway qualified as a Brahmana, but he's qualified for doing this particular activity called Niyoga. Okay, a Niyoga requires a certain type of mentality. Not everybody can do it, even if he is a qualified Brahmana or a Kshatriya. Niyoga requires somebody who thinks beyond lust, for whom lust doesn't exist, in whose mind lust doesn't exist. It's an activity of what is normally considered as a union between a male and a female, but done purely without lust and done for the purpose of begetting a child only. Okay, so and it's done with certain strictures in a particular procedural manner. So Bhishma suggests to her that please, consider that inviting a qualified Brahmana who is eligible for doing this activity and ask him to uh, to do this activity. So the Niyoga practice is described in the Manusmriti in this manner. There's a shloka which describes, there are two shlokas actually. The first one says, Vidhavayam niyuktastu ghritakto vagyato nishi ekam utpadayetu putram na dvitiyam katanchana. So this is how Niyoga is described in the Manusmriti. It says Vidhavayam means in a vidhava, in a widow, in the womb of a widow. Niyuktastu, niyuktaha means the person who does Niyoga. The activity who does the person given the responsibility of doing yoga, he should beGhritaktaha. Ghritaktaha means one who has anointed or applied, smeared his body with ghee. Ghritam means ghee. So at the time of doing this activity of niyoga, the body should be smeared with ghee. The reason why it's smeared with ghee is to make it unattractive. Okay, normally when two people are engaging in a physical union, uh, they're not going to apply ghee on their body. They may apply some perfume or something, whatever, but they want to appear attractive to each other so that they get the maximum pleasure out of it. Okay, if pleasure is their goal, if the goal is pleasure, then they would want to do that. But here, the goal is not pleasure, and actually, the goal, the process involves reducing the thought of pleasure or completely eliminating the thought of pleasure. So by applying ghee to the body becomes unattractive. It's no longer attractive from that perspective. So applied ghee on the body. Vagyataha means one whose speech is completely silent, or Vagyataha, speech is restrained. Completely restrained speech means he is silent. It's a way of saying that he completely remains silent during that process. So the Niyukta doesn't speak to that woman anything, doesn't try to befriend her or try to stimulate her, excite her. No. His job is only to transfer his fluid to the body of that woman. So he is quiet. Nishi means in the night time. It should happen in the night time, not in the daytime. Okay, there's a particular time of the night when it is meant to be done. Ekam utpadayet putram na dvitiyam katanchana. Only one son should be begotten, not a second one. Okay, you should do it only once to beget that son so that that lineage of that family can continue, only for that purpose. So this is one shloka. Then two shlokas later in the Manusmriti itself. Vidhavayam niyogarthe nivritte tu yathavidi Guruvaccha snushavaccha varteyatam parasparam. So the mentality of the two people, the man and the woman, what their thinking should be at that time. So it says vidavayam, in that vidava, niyogarthe nivrittetu yathavidi. The For the sake of niyoga, there is a whole process to be followed, and that entire process is not described here, but I'll tell you a little bit more about it, how it is done here now in this case. Uh, Niyogarthe nivrittetu yathavidi. Guruvaccha snushavaccha varteyatam parasparam. The the woman should think of that man like the way she thinks of her guru. Guruvaccha. Guruvaccha means like the way she thinks of her guru. Okay. So normally no woman will have a physical union with her guru. So what does it mean here? It looks a little absurd to say she should think of that person as her guru. Now here what it means is that she should think of that person in the same way that she thinks of her guru when she interacts with her guru or when she meditates on her guru. So, how does anybody think of their guru? They think of their guru as somebody who gives them knowledge, somebody who gives them some learning, somebody who gives them something of great value, somebody who guides them, somebody who blesses them, right? So, in that way, she should think of that man who's coming. He's giving me something of great value. He's like my guru. He has the same position as my guru, and he's giving me something of great value. I respect him like that. She should not think of him as a lover, as somebody who is giving pleasure to her body, not like that. So this is the mood with which she looks at that person who is coming. Okay. And snushavaccha. So how does the man think of that woman? Again, from his perspective, he should think of that woman like snusha. Snusha means a daughter-in-law. In Sanskrit, the word for daughter-in-law is snusha. So daughter-in-law or like a daughter. Okay, how does a man think of his daughter-in-law? He does not think of a daughter-in-law as an object of sensual pleasure. He thinks of daughter-in-law as his son's wife, somebody that he should protect. Okay, in our tradition, daughter-in-law means equivalent to a daughter. She comes from another house and now she has become a part of my family. She is now part of my family. And she is as good as my daughter. And everything that I would do to my daughter, I would the love and affection I would give to my daughter, the same affection I would give her. All the gifts I would give to my daughter, I would give to this daughter-in-law as well. So the way in which I would pamper my daughter, love my daughter, give affection to my daughter, the same thing I would do to this lady as well, this daughter-in-law as well. So the man should think of that woman with whom he is doing niyoga as like his daughter-in-law, to whom he would give something of value, not as an object of pleasure. Okay. So both of them have pleasure completely out of their minds. Minds are completely pure. And it's a biological process. It's a process which requires that the fluid in the body of the man goes into the body of the woman for a particular purpose. And the job is only to transfer that fluid and nothing more than that. Okay, that is called niyoga. That's the way it's described. Okay, now let's see how it is done here and who does it. Okay, so this is a niyoga practice. And so Bhishma suggests that a qualified Brahmana be brought there. And Satyavati immediately thinks of Vyasa. Okay, so why does Vyasa come to her mind? Shri Vyasadeva come to her mind. It's because Vyasa is her first son. Okay, the first son that Satyavati had was Vyasa. Even before she had Chitrangada, Vyasa was born to her. And the birth of Vyasa, she immediately recollects in her mind. And I'm going to quickly narrate that story here. It's a very interesting story, and it also reveals the position of Vyasa, that he is not an ordinary mortal like us. So, how does it happen? So Satyavati narrates this story to Bhishma in this chapter and then explains why she should engage Vyasa for this job. So it is described that she describes that when she was a maiden, when she was extremely young, maybe something like 16 or 18 years of age, very young, one day she was alone traveling on her boat on the Yamuna. Her father was a boatman and he was also a fisherman. So she's traveling on the boat. And as she was traveling, all of a sudden she saw this great sage, okay, named Parashara Muni, who's a very, very accomplished, very elevated sage coming towards her. And he was coming towards her in a manner that looked like he wanted to have a physical union with her. Okay, he was approaching her with some kind of a look, the look of a man who wants to physically unite with a woman. Okay, so immediately she became very concerned that what's going to happen now? Who is this person? Okay, she recognized him as a great, great sage. And then she says that he actually blessed her. Okay, the first thing he did was he spoke to her and he said that there is something I have to do with you, and there is a special purpose for it. So, what Parashara does, so first she is concerned, and then she, seeing his personality and seeing the intention with which he has come, she gives in. He says, okay. And the first thing he does is he creates a, a, a particular, they are on an island. There's an island in the middle of the Yamuna where they reach, and he envelops that whole place with a certain kind of darkness so that nobody can see him or her and what they're going to do. And then he removes the bad smell that was on her body. Okay, she's after all living with a fisherman, and all the time they are in the middle of fish. So her body is smelling of fish. Okay, if you go to any fishing village, for example, if you're passing through a fishing village, you'll smell fish everywhere. And if you happen to closely talk to a fisherman, you might smell fish coming from their body. It's but natural because they are in the middle of fish, right? So there's a smell of fish about her, and she's also called by the name Matsya Gandha. Okay, her name is also, another name for her is Matsya Gandha, means one whose body smelt of fish. But now Parashara, he removes that smell from her body and he endows her with an extremely divine smell, a very fragrant smell. Okay, that is how later on we hear, actually in the Mahabharata, this came earlier, but we heard this a few sessions back, how when Shantanu was hunting, he first got that smell. Before even he saw her, he first got that exotic smell and then he went searching and then he found her. So this smell was actually endowed to her by Parashara at this point of time. So then Parashara actually uses her body because she's a divine being. She is not an ordinary woman, not an ordinary fisherwoman, or not even an ordinary human being. She's a divine personality herself. So he uses her body, using his, ascetic powers, his powers as a saint, as a sage. He creates a child in her womb. He blesses her to have a child. Now, a couple of interesting things are described in the Mahabharata which show that his birth, Sri Vyasa's birth, is not like the birth of an ordinary human child. The first thing is that normally when a woman conceives, it may take about 9 months for the child to be born, right? For any of us, it's 9 months. But Sri Vyasa does not take 9 months. He is born immediately. So as soon as he transfers his, portion to her body, his amsha to her body, Vyasa takes birth as a child. And the moment he takes birth, the second thing is that he grows into an adult. He's born as a baby, and immediately he becomes into a grown like a boy, like a young boy. Okay, he grows up instantly. It's because Sri Vyasa himself is not an ordinary human being. He's not an ordinary Jivatma. He's considered a Shaktiavesh avatar of Bhagavan. It's Bhagavan himself who appears, an Amsha of Bhagavan appears as Sri Vyasa with a particular responsibility. So Sri Vyasa appears in the womb of Satyavati, and Satyavati does not get any time to spend with him. So he interacts with her as soon as he's born. He grows into that bigger size. So within a few moments, the child is born and it grows into a size of an adult. And then he takes his mother's blessings. He tells her that, Mother, I'm leaving you now because I have to go with my father. Father takes him away. So his father's job was to bring such a child into this world so that he can train him and prepare him to prepare the scriptures for this world. Okay, he had a purpose. With that purpose in mind, Parashara brings this child through the womb of Satyavati. Satyavati is engaged as an instrument in that, a divine instrument to bring a divine child to this world for the benefit of this world. So Satyavati is left behind as the proud mother of a great personality. But at the time of leaving his mother, Sri Vyasa takes her blessings and tells her that, Mother, anytime you want me, anytime you want my help, just think about me and I will come there. I will appear before you. Just think about me in your mind and I will appear before you. Okay, he tells her that and he goes with his father. So this is the birth of Sri Vyasa. And so now Satyavati decides that she will use Vyasa because after all, the suggestion of Bhishma sounded very good to her that a qualified Brahmana must do this, not Bhishma. Bhishma anyway cannot do it because he's going to stick with his vow. So who is the alternative now? A qualified Brahmana, and the best among the qualified Brahmanas is her own son, Sri Vyasa. In addition to that, Sri Vyasa has, by virtue of being her son also, has the eligibility, additional eligibility, that he is not an outsider. He is as good as a brother for Chitrangada and Vichitravirya, the people who have died, right? The husbands of the two women who are now widowed. Their elder brother is Vyasa because both of them are, all three of them are sons of Satyavati. Therefore, he has that additional feature which makes him qualified to do Niyoga. Because the Shastra talks about Devarena Sutotpati. Devara means a brother. A brother can beget a child in the womb of a widowed sister-in-law, following this Niyoga process. So Satyavati, meditates on Vyasa, and the moment she meditates on Vyasa, he appears before her, like he has promised. He appears before her and bows down to her and says, Mother, what do you want me to do? Please tell me. So she describes the the the, the reason why she called him, and she tells him that now, please do this. This dynasty has to continue, and I thought of you as the best person to conduct this job. So immediately Vyasa says, Mother, I will do it. And he tells his mother that since you have requested me, I'll do whatever makes you happy. I will do this. But there is a reason why there's a condition. There's a condition that I have, and that's because if I go right now, if I let's say do it tonight itself, then these two women, because of my appearance, they may not be able to receive me in the proper mentality. Okay, now what does he mean by his appearance? It's described that Sri Vyasa, he does not have the normal attractive form that an avatar of Sri Bhagavan has. Okay, he describes himself as Virupa. Virupa means one who looks awkward or looks ugly. Okay, the literal translation of Virupa would be ugly. So Vyasa describes himself as Virupa, not having that attractive form, that form of Bhagavan, like Bhagavan has, but has a rather ugly and you can say repulsive form. Okay, in appearance. By appearance, he's like that. Although by his consciousness is not like that, his appearance is like that. He's also dark in complexion. He's not fair or effulgent. He's dark in complexion. So his dark complexion, that's the reason why he's called Krishna. One of his names is Krishna because he's dark in complexion. And because he was born on an island, he's called Dvaipayana. Krishna Dvaipayana. Dark personality born on an island. Okay, he's called Krishna Dvaipayana Vyasa. And the name Vyasa comes because Vyasta, Vedaha or Vedaha Vyastaha Yenasaha. A person who divided the Vedas or categorized the Vedas, made parts of the Vedas. Okay, so he's called Vyasa because of that. So Krishna Dvaipayana Vyasa, that's how his name comes. So he tells his mother that, Mother, if I go now, then they will not be in a proper mood to receive me by looking at my form. So I should mentally prepare them, or they should be mentally prepared for that. So he says, first they are talking only about Ambika. Okay, first it's about getting Ambika to beget a child. So he tells his mother that ask Ambika to prepare herself for 1 year of tapasya according to the procedure that I am going to give you now. So he says, I'll give her a procedure, and this procedure must be followed by her for 1 year of vrata. And by doing that for 1 year, she will be mentally ready to receive me when I come, and she will not be scared of me. There'll be no fear in her mind. There'll be no fear in her mind. So Satyavati hears that, but she is now in a state of impatience because it's now some time has passed since both her sons have died, and she's like the kingdom has no king. Bhishma cannot sit on the throne, so the kingdom has to run without a king, and for her even that 1 year, or it's not just 1 year because after that 1 year again the child has to grow up, but at least there has to be a child. So at least 1 year it will take for a child to come. So it's too long in her mind. She's very impatient, so she tells Vyasa that I can't wait. Please do it right now itself. Do it right now. So then Vyasa says that he's not very pleased with it because he knows that she may not be ready, but he just tells her, he just cautions her. He says that, Mother, I will do it. Since you want me to do it, I'll do it. But uh, please be aware that if Ambika is not scared of me, then she will get a very divine child. If she is able to receive me correctly without fear in her mind, then she will get a very divine child in her womb. So that's agreed upon, and Satyavati then prepares the whole, the palace and everything for the process. It's a ceremony in which the brahmanas they perform the required pujas. It's not something that is purely done in confidence. There is awareness that this is going to happen, and at the right time, is described in the next chapter. Vyasa conducts Niyoga. Okay, so first he goes to Ambika at the right time. In the middle of the night, it's described with the ghee applied on his body and all that. And when he goes inside, the room is brightly lit, and he goes and she sees him, and she has no idea that he looks like that. She has not been informed earlier. That has been missed out. So she's expecting. She knows that somebody is going to come and do niyog with her, but she does not know what that person looks like. So she's thinking he must be like my husband, maybe another attractive, because husband was an extremely handsome person, very charming, very well built, good looking, very very effulgent person, right? Vichitravirya. So she thinks maybe another king like that, another personality like that, and she was expecting a person like that. But suddenly she sees his form, and she's shocked. So in the state of shock, she goes into a kind of a, she withdraws inside and she closes her eyes. She closes both her eyes and she lies down, waiting for Vyasa to do his job. So when Vyasa does that, because her eyes were closed, eventually, so when Vyasa comes out of the after the process is over, Satyavati is waiting outside, and she asks him, "Did everything go well? Can we expect a very divine child to come?" Then Vyasa replies that yes, the child will have a lot of good qualities. It will be very dharmic in nature. It will know. It will be able to do. It will be very strong. It will be very capable. But there is one negative thing that because she closed her eyes, the child will be born blind. We can't help that. So then time passes and then the child is born and the child is born blind, just like Vyasa says. So then Satyavati is obviously not very happy about that. So she calls him back. Okay, initially the plan was to beget only one child with Ambika, but then the child has been born blind. So she calls him back and says that now please perform Niyoga with Ambalika as well and see if we can get a different child. So again, a similar thing happens, and he goes there, and this time Ambalika does not close her eyes. Instead, she is very nervous when she sees him. Probably she knows that what happened to Ambika, so she does not close her eyes. I don't know. That's not described in the Mahabharata. Just my guess. But whatever it is, she doesn't close her eyes when she sees him. So she feels extremely nervous. She feels, fear. She feels a lot of fear, and she also has an inner withdrawal. because of which her complexion becomes pale. She becomes very pale in complexion. And eventually she gives birth to a son who is also pale in complexion. Again, when Vyasa comes out of the room and meets Satyavati, Satyavati is again waiting outside. She again asks him what happened. Is everything good? And he says that this time uh, you will again get a very divine child. You will get a child with a lot of good qualities. But what happened was during the process, she became extremely pale out of fear and nervousness. So it's also described that even though the Niyoga rule says that he should not speak to her, but he speaks to her. He speaks to her and calms her down. He tries to calm her down and tell her not to feel nervous, but she's very, very nervous looking at him. And her nervousness makes her very pale, becomes very pale in her complexion. So the son that is born to her, he's also pale in complexion. It's called Panduvarna, Panduvarna or Shankavarna. Like if you see a conch has got a pale white color. Okay, so he's the color of that. He's not a he's not shining white. His effulgence is very pale. Okay, he's got a very pale complexion. So he's called Pandu, which means pale. So then what happens again after Pandu is born? Once again, Satyavati feels that let's try for a child which doesn't have these defects. So she again tells Ambika, now that you know that this person will come, this time don't feel afraid, don't close your eyes, anything. Just receive him properly with a proper mentality, and then you will get a divine child. So she tells Ambika and arranges for the third time Niyoga to happen. So in the third time that he comes, Ambika, she doesn't want to have that Niyoga for whatever reason. She decides to play a trick. So she's expected to cooperate with her mother-in-law, but she doesn't do that. And so she arranges for one of her dasis. She catches hold of a dasi and she decks her up with her clothes so that the dasi looks like Ambika from outside. Okay, so that you can't make out. In those days, and even now, today, in many places in India, women cover their faces also. You can't see their face, right? You can only see the body and you can see the garments. So from outside, she looks like Ambika, but it's not Ambika. So there's a dasi who's waiting for Vyasa when he comes. And when Vyasa sees the dasi, he knows that she has done this. Of course, he's a great sage, and you can't fool him like that. But the dasi here, she has the bhav that Vyasa wants. She has the correct bhav. She receives him with the correct mentality, and she is not afraid. She serves him. She does seva to him, and he is very pleased with her. And when he does niyog with her, the child that is born is a genuinely divine child with all the great qualities, and that is Vidura. Vidura is born there. So three children are born by this niyoga process that is applied with Vyasa as the niyukta, and Dhritarashtra, Pandu, and Vidura are now brothers of each other in this manner. And eventually, what happens after that? Okay, now three children have come, and these three children are going to be the dynasty. And there's no more Niyog after this, and Vyasa finishes his job and he goes away. His role is over. As far as this process is concerned, the role is over. Now Bhishma has the responsibility to bring up these children, and that's what he does. So the remaining chapters from this point onwards in the Adi Parva, they describe how Bhishma arranged for everything that is required to bring them up so that they can now occupy the throne. He did the same thing with their fathers. Keep in mind now this is the next generation. So with his own generation, his younger brothers, he brought them up, made sure they're qualified to become king, put them on the throne, got one of them married. The earlier one died before he got married. The second one, he got him married. He did everything that he could do, but now they are gone. Now he's repeating the same process with the next generation. Okay, and there will be one more generation after this. So he takes care of this generation and he brings them up. He takes full responsibility. And I'm not going to cover all those portions. I will go forward after some time into the portion where uh, the other events involving Bhishma directly. Okay, so here it suffices to say that he brings them up, and one of the significant things that he does in this process is to arrange for Dronacharya as the teacher for them, which plays a major role in the way they are shaped up as Kshatriyas. Right, so all that happens. So I want to sort of tie up our discussion by saying, just give me a moment. Somebody is knocking the door here. कौन है क्या हाँ ठीक है Okay, can you all hear me? Is my audio? Hello,
Yes, sir.
can you
You
hear me?
are perfectly audible. Yes, sir. You are perfectly audible.
Okay. So this is what happens when you take a Gita class from a hotel room. Suddenly somebody comes and knocks. So I wanted to tie up everything by showing how a bhakta, you see, like in this case, it is Bhishma, how, you know, through him, through his example, we see how bhakti inspires leadership in human society. Okay, the bhaktas, with their best qualities that they have, they make the best leaders in society. And what is the basis for that? The basis for their leadership is this ekata and anukulata with Bhagavan. Ekata is that oneness with Bhagavan in their outlook, their intention, their desire, their mentality. And anukulata is coming from that oneness, the inspiration to do that which pleases Bhagavan and to reject that which displeases him. So for them, any sacrifice, or you can say no sacrifice, looks too big for his pleasure. Okay, they're willing to do anything if that pleases Bhagavan, which is in accordance with dharma. So some of the qualities of leadership that we see from this particular story, which are also recognized even in modern literature as good qualities of leaders. Pararthata, selflessness, the willingness to sacrifice one's gain for another's welfare. Okay, this is considered as a very admirable quality in great leaders, and we see a lot of that in Bhishma. A person who living by the five yamas and the five niyama. The yama and niyama are considered as very foundational elements of the practice of dharma. Is there in Patanjali Yoga Sutra also, in Vedic Dharma also. Vedic Dharma, of course, Patanjali Yoga Sutra is based on Vedic Dharma. So these five yamas, ahimsa, satya, asteya, brahmacharya, aparigraha. Ahimsa is not troubling others, not killing others. Satya, honesty. Asteya, not usurping others' property, not stealing. Brahmacharya, celibacy. In Bhishma's case, literally follows Naishtika Brahmacharya. Aparigraha, mentality of non-possessiveness, and niyamas like shaucha, internal cleanliness, external cleanliness. Santosha means tripti, being content with whatever we have, not being greedy. The opposite of being greedy is santushti, being content and saying, okay, this much is enough. I'm happy with this much. If I got, three chapatis and a little bit of dal, that's enough for me. Or in some cases, two chapatis may be enough. So I'm happy. I don't need a big feast every time. Tapa, austerity, willingness to take austerity. Swadhyaya, engaging in study. Tapasya and Swadhyaya go hand in hand. And Ishvara Pranidhan, offering oneself to Bhagavan or devoting one's mental resources, physical resources to the service of Bhagavan. Okay, Ishvara Pranidhan. So these are all considered as essential pillars. We see that very much in Bhishma's life. Uh, Bhakta upholds dharma. You see, even though we distinguish between Samanya dharma and Paro dharma, Bhakti is Paro dharma, whereas dharma in general is called as Samanya dharma, which helps people stay happy in this material existence. But a bhakta respects dharma, samanya dharma also. A bhakta upholds samanya dharma because it's good for society, right? Even though he does not practice all the principles of samanya dharma in the sense that he follows bhakti, because of following bhakti, he may ignore some of the principles of samanya dharma, but he respects them and he upholds them. He advocates that people follow them, okay, regardless of the cost. So dharma is upheld at any cost. He has a Vishwavasi drishti, means a universal vision that Sri Bhagavan resides. And where does it come from? You see, we talk about universal vision even in the modern literature. Leaders have a larger vision. Okay, they think beyond themselves, etc. But in the case of the bhakta, where does this drishti come from? This comes from the drishti that Sri Bhagavan is a Vishwavasi. Vishwavasi means one who resides in every living being. So when you see another living being, then you see Bhagavan in that living being. And because you see Bhagavan there, you treat that living being with respect. You treat every living being with respect, and you treat them with kindness, with compassion. So even if somebody is not kind to you, you may be willing to be kind to them because of this reason, because you see that after all, this poor fellow, even though he has Bhagwan inside him, is not able to realize that, and he's doing these wicked things. Okay, so let me be kind to them. And this, you can see this in the life of the Pandavas, how they were so kind to the Kauravas all the time, despite the fact that the Kauravas mistreated them. They remained kind to them and compassionate to them. He's very humble, readily offers respect to others. He's a manada. Manada means one who always gives respect, or he's ready to offer respect to others. And amani. Amani means one who does not seek respect for oneself. Okay, so all these qualities we see in Bhishma. Bhishma very patient, willing to do it again and again. Now he's dealing with the next generation. He's willing to take the responsibility and take it forward. Okay, he could have easily said that, okay, I've already taken care of my job is over. I'm going to the forest now. I'll do tapasya. Okay, or I'll go for liberation. Father said that after all, Father has blessed me that I can go anytime I want to go. So I'll go back to the Swarga Loka. I don't have to worry about this dynasty. So, but no, he's there. He wants to make sure that dharma is followed, dharma is established, and then he will go. Okay, so he's willing to be patient. He's willing to respect others. And so these are a few qualities of leaders that we came across so far in the Bhishma story, and we will come across some more before we end his story. We'll continue from the next class onwards. I hope that the rest of my audio was also clear to you. Do you have
Yes,
any?
sir, it
Yes,
was
sir.
clear.
Let me see if I turn my video back on so we can have some conversation.
Sir, I had a small request.
Yeah,
Sir, while you were explaining the last shloka, then at that point of time, the voice was breaking a lot. So if you could quickly summarize it, or maybe just give an overview of the last shloka.
the Tesha Megavanu Kampartham, the 10.11 shloka.
Yes, sir. There the voice was breaking very heavily.
Okay, this one in this shloka, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, here. So here, Sri Bhagavan is saying Tesham for those people, Eva, only for them. Anukampartham, for compassion, out of compassion. Aham, I. Ajnanajam, that born of ignorance, lack of knowledge. Tamaha, darkness. Nashayami, destroy. Atma bhavastaha, that which is residing, that ignorance is residing in the Atma bhav, in the context of realization of the self, or in the consciousness, you can say. Jnana Deepena means with the lamp of knowledge. Bhaswata, the shining lamp of knowledge. So he says, for such persons who are sincerely engaged in the practice of bhakti yoga, who are, eager to come to me, sacrificing everything else, out of compassion, I destroy that ignorance in their heart, the darkness caused by ignorance in their heart, with the shining or luminous lamp of knowledge. Okay, this is what Sri Bhagavan is saying in the 11th shloka of the 10th chapter. In that, he summarizes his attitude towards the bhakta, how he looks at the bhakta and what he does for the bhakta. So, bhakti yoga is this process of both the
Yes, sir.
bhakta
Thank you,
and
sir.
Bhagavan approaching each other. Right. So, actually, I personally, realized that each of these can be case studies. We can prepare, just like we write IV cases and publish them, dealing with, companies and so on. From the perspective of leadership, from the perspective of ethicality, morality, etc., we can actually create cases out of these. And I don't know, IV may not publish them, but we can use them in our teaching. We can use them in teaching courses on leadership. It's quite possible. Each of these is a unique case. I believe that. And I'm going to
Yes,
try
sir.
to write some of these into cases and do analysis in terms of how these can help understand leadership qualities better.
Yes, sir. I resonate with you, sir. I think crisis management is something that we learned in today's session, sir. How to manage a crisis on that front.
Right. Hmm. So one of the things you see is Bhishma's patience, extreme patience, and willingness to put up with, a lot of. You see, you don't see him losing his temper or cursing anybody or going and killing someone. You see him, very patiently saying, "Okay, I'll bear with this. I'll bear with this." Listens to Satyavati. His own father is no longer there. You see, what do normally people do? Okay, there's a difference between a leader and an ordinary person. An ordinary person, even for a small thing, would complain and put the blame on somebody. Okay, grow up and say something is wrong in life, then find the person to blame first. Like could be your own teacher, father. First people to blame are our parents. Blame our father, blame the mother, then blame the teachers, blame the friends, or blame the boss in the company, blame the company. So find somebody to blame for one's own misery. One's misery is not because of oneself, but somebody else. So finding the person to blame and blaming that person is a source of relief. Gives a lot of mental relief, right? Talking about what is wrong with them, what is wrong with this person, what is wrong with that person. But in this story, we don't see Bhishma. Bhishma has gone through all kinds of difficulty, right? If he's born, the moment he's born, his mother is trying to kill him. And then something happens by which he is not killed, but mother takes him away from his father. So he's not living with his father for so many years. And then his mother brings him back. He's put through a schooling, like some kind of a boarding school where he's learning from different teachers. He has to go through rigorous learning. And then he's brought back to his father, and then his mother leaves him. When he gets his father, his mother is gone. So at any point of time, he's either only mother or only father. He cannot live with both of them. Okay, so eventually he's brought up by his father, but he ends up making his father happier than his father made him. In the sense, he gives his father something much bigger than what his father has given him. Right? You can see that happening in that story. So then his father leaves after some time, but he doesn't have access to the kingdom because he has taken a vow. He cannot get married. He has no power. He has to now appoint somebody through whom he will work. So whole life, you can see again and again and again, difficulties keep coming to him. But nowhere in the story do you see him getting angry, complaining. He just says, I'll stick by dharma. And this is the mentality. If somebody sticks by dharma, says, I will follow these principles. I'm a principled person. The principles are my source of strength. If I follow the principles strongly, then whatever happens outside of me, I will be able to tolerate. I'll be able to cope with that. That ability to cope with that will come to me and I'll remain happy. Outside me, things may be going wrong, which are out of my control. But within me, there will always be control and there will be happiness. That is the meaning of dharma. And we see that in Bhishma's example. Yeah, so even in this material world, even if we don't look at the big examples like Bhishma, even the ordinary examples that we see of great leaders in society, they also we see going through a lot of difficulty, but putting up with it, coping up, and not losing themselves in the course of difficulty. And we learn from that too, right? But here we have a divine example to learn from. That's where the Mahabharata plays a role by giving us these kind of examples.
Sir, I have a doubt, a
Yeah.
question.
Who is speaking? Ananya. Yes.
Ananya, sir.
Yes.
Sir, when Vyasa gets to, when he recognizes the Dasi, why does he not reveal this fact? Because the Dasi's child can anyway not be the king.
Yeah, true. But he goes with it. He says, this is what they want. I will give them this. Anyway, he can't go to Ambika because Ambika doesn't want it, right? So what can he? What's the point? If he goes to Ambika anyway, the mentality will not be there. You cannot force somebody to have a particular mentality, right? You can force yourself physically on somebody, but you can't force them to change their mentality. Mentality has to change from within. So even if he revealed that she was a dasi and he came out and said, no, you're a dasi, then I can't do niyoga with you, nothing will happen. He will not be able to give a child to Ambika, which Satyavati wants. So now he brings a divine child through this dasi. The dasi has a child who is more divine in qualities than the other two, right? So he accomplishes that.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Good. Any other questions? So actually, when I was preparing this, it's occurring to me that our education system has completely ignored, our modern education system has completely ignored these examples. I mean, I'm here in Delhi for the admission interviews, and today was the 5th day of the admission interviews, and now I've interviewed along with my panel something like over 5 days about 80 candidates. Okay, roughly 80 candidates in 5 days, and I've had numerous examples coming from them. When I ask them, think of a great leader and think of some quality of that leader. Okay, that's a common interview question, as you know. So they think of leaders, but the leaders they think of are all, many of them are Western leaders or somebody like Nelson Mandela and things like that. Nobody thinks of Bhishma or Bharata or Yudhishthira, nothing, because this is not there in our education system. This is meant to be a part of our education, right? This is our knowledge. This has been born in our country. Instead, when people talk about Mahabharata, they talk about so many misconceptions of Mahabharata, right? How, because Draupadi went through an insulting experience, that means that Indians don't respect women. Our Shastra teaches us not to respect. One man argued with me a few years back, somewhere else, that our culture treats people to disrespect women. I said, no, where does it teach that? You see, Mahabharata, Draupadi was insulted. So I said, that is not teaching you to insult women. It is showing how you should not insult women. Because what happened to the people who insulted women? They were destroyed. That Draupadi's insult became one of the key points for their destruction, right? That initiated their destruction. So that's showing you not that you should insult women, but you should not insult women. You should treat women with honor. So that's what our Shastra is teaching, but our education system doesn't address that right now. And we have to bring it out. We have to play a role in restoring it. We have to bring it back. So at least the future generations will be able to, say these things. Good. So in the next class, we will do the next part. I'll skip a few parts of Mahabharata. My objective is not to narrate the entire Mahabharata, but to highlight the role that Bhishma played and his character. So I'll go to the next significant role in next significant narrative in Bhishma's life, and then we will continue from there. Shall we stop for today?
There's a question from Udit. Can you please answer that
Oh, where is it?
in the chat panel?
Udit, yeah, does not the child acquire any qualities from mother? Example, from birth to Niyoga, it is mentioned. Qualities they will get from sage Vyasa. Yeah, I think it acquires qualities from both. That's not discussed in the Mahabharata, at least in this portion. But I can imagine that they would get qualities of both. And in this particular case, Vyasa is being a very divine personality. He's Bhagavan's Amsha. And he's not an ordinary personality at all. And it so happens that these women also are not just like any other women, but they are also, well groomed, and they are very dharmic. They understand what dharma is, very good understanding of dharma. They respect dharma, and they have agreed to do niyoga. They are not resisting the activity of niyoga itself. I guess the child will get qualities from the mother too. I don't see any reason why it should not.
Yes, sir. Okay. Actually, the fact that they becoming little fearful at that time
Yeah,
has defined
that
the
itself.
entire. Uh,
Yeah,
and
so that's an example of how the mother's not just quality, that is not a quality of the mother, but a behavior. She exhibited a particular behavior, and that behavior influenced the child.
okay.
That behavior itself influenced the child. So another realization from the way Niyoga is described is the mentality of the child is influenced by the mentality of the parents, including the mentality with which they engage in that union. When they actually have physical union to beget a child, that is why in our Samskriti there is a process called the Garbhadhana Samskar.
Mm,
Garbhadhana Samskar is a process, a samskar, which the parents prepare themselves mentally before they make the conception happen. Before conception for the child, to bring in a child which has got good qualities, the parents actually prepare themselves mentally. It's not just, it's just not just like today, the way people talk about it is just like pleasure. It's just for pleasure, activity of pleasure. And one of those activities of pleasure, a conception happened. And then you discover it after a couple of months. That's how people talk about it now, isn't it? But that's not the way it is meant to be. Garbhadan samskar is something that you prepare for and you look for an auspicious date, time, etc., etc. So I don't know all the details, but I know that these things are involved in it. Just like the Niyoga process, the Garbhadan samskar is a process by which the mind is prepared, consciousness is prepared before conception, and then conception is made to happen. And it is recommended that only if it is done that way, then you bring in a child to this world who is actually uh, very, very dharmic in qualities, divine in qualities.
Okay, okay.
I just want to add something here.
Yeah.
May not be relevant to the story as such, but what the in Padma Purana there is a chapter where it is described about how we get our bandhu bandhavas, how we what kind of children are born. It's all because of the karma phala. So if we have the punya or the papa, the phala, accordingly that kind of atma which also has that combination will uh, get into us, and a child of that quality will be born. So Dhritarashtra becoming being born as a blind child was destined, and Ambika closing her eyes was just it was part of the process of destiny that she closed her eyes, and so that's how we can look at it. So it is not like because the mother is highly qualified or highly educated or highly talented, the child also gets similar talent. It's not like that in society. We see a very dull-headed person also having a very bright or talented child. So up to some point, nurture plays a role, but after that, it is the child's own karma phala which takes over.
Okay. Okay. Good. Any other questions? Or anybody wants to comment anything, say anything?
Sir, I had a question, but it isn't directly related to today's class. So should I ask right now or maybe later?
Is it connected to the philosophy that we are
Yes, sir.
talking about?
Yes, to the philosophy. Yes.
Yes, yes, you can. Sure.
So, sir, when we say about Jnana Yoga, so is my understanding correct over here that through Jnana Yoga, you will realize God by when your ignorance is removed. So there is some ignorance which is present, and once that ignorance is removed, you will realize God. You will have a connection with God. So is this understanding correct?
Yeah, in a simple way, yes. That's my understanding too. Yeah.
So, sir, that means that even in our Achintya Bheda Bheda, we say that the nature of our Jivatma is the same as that of Paramatma. So essentially, you are that Atma itself. So no transformation will happen per se. Only that you will get that knowledge that
Yeah.
okay, I am this being, not this body. So
Yeah.
once I get that knowledge, how does no change in that substance on which other things are based, so that Atma remains the same? But how does this gaining of this knowledge of Atma make me free from this cycle of death and birth?
Well, the idea is this, that why do we have a rebirth? We have a rebirth because we hanker for something in material existence. we choose to be part of it. We see this material existence as a source of our happiness. So we take refuge in it. If all attachments are given up and attachment is only to the Atma, to the self, okay, I'm talking about from the theoretical perspective. If such a thing is possible, then why will there be rebirth? There's complete detachment from matter, right? Why will there be rebirth? There will be no rebirth. But what the
So,
Shastra is saying is that that is possible only when there is bhakti, there is attachment to Bhagavan. Only he can impart that situation of complete detachment. By ourselves, without that connection with Bhagavan, the extent of detachment we can go is only to some point. We can become very sattvic. Like you see in the Vishwamitra story, he does not take refuge in Bhagavan. He performs tapasya. He's got some knowledge about tapasya. He performs that tapasya process. His ego is able to motivate him to do that. With the motivation coming from his ego and the sense of uh, capability, self ability, he's got a very strong sense of ability that I can do it. So he does it, and he becomes very sattvic. What does he do? He doesn't become a mukta. He becomes very sattvic. His level of sattva is very high. He's become now a Brahma Rishi. So he has the realization of himself as being very different from the body, but at the same time, he is not liberated. He doesn't get mukti. Attachment is still there. Ego is still there.
yes, got it. Thank you, sir.
Real mukti is when this ego, this material ego as me, as something part of this material existence completely goes away. And that is possible only when the realization that I am a das of Bhagavan, I am an amsha of Bhagavan becomes very strong. It becomes stronger than anything else. And that is given by him. That's given by him in bhakti. Only when we perform that bhakti and get that kripa from him, we get that mukti. If mukti
So,
was
sir,
our goal.
so when we have the kripa of Sri Bhagavan and our attachment towards all material desires are over, then there is no need for a birth because then I have no desire to enjoy this material.
Yeah, there is
So
no
although
need to
Atma
take a birth
remains
there.
same,
Yes.
so that okay, okay, got it. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. But then what happens is the Shuddha Bhakta, the Ananya Bhakta does not ask for mukti or does not, for him, mukti is immaterial. What he asks is that, please give me continuous memory of you, continuous remembrance of you. Mama janmani janmani ishware bhavatat bhakti rahitu kitvai. Let this bhakti continue forever. So even if he takes birth again, okay, sometimes we say that that great bhakta has come back in this form. Okay, he's the same as that bhakta of that particular Leela of Bhagavan. So when Bhagavan performs his Leela, his bhaktas take birth with him again and again. Why? Because they want to be always connected to him and involved in different Leelas. So for them, rebirth is not the same as the rebirth of the Baddha Jiva. They are Mukta Jivas, Nitya Muktas.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah,
Sir, another quick question. So we have talked plenty of times about Shri Brahma.
yeah.
So is Prajapati the same as Shri Brahma or they are two different entities?
The word Prajapati is used in the Gita as well as in the Shastra for multiple, depending on the context. One is for Brahma. Brahma is a Prajapati. It is also used for Vishnu sometimes, and it's also used for the great sages like Kashyapa, for example. He's a Prajapati. Daksha is a Prajapati. So there are great sages who are empowered to create population. They have the power in them to impregnate different other living beings and create a population through them of different species, not only the same species. So they can create Manushya, they can create Deva, they can create Gandharva, they can create Vanara, they can create Kinnara, they can create different types of species, divine species, ordinary species, etc. So they are called
Including
Prajapati,
animals.
including animals also, lower animals also. So they are all these living beings are created through these Prajapatis. They are given different powers and they are created through them, through their seminal process, through the same biological process. Om स्वस्ति प्रजाभ्यः परिपालयन्तां न्यायेन मार्गेण महिषाः गोब्राह्मणेभ्यो शुभमस्तु नित्यं लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु। ॐ तद्विष्णोः परमं पदगुं सदा पश्यन्ति सूरयः दिवि वचक्षुराततं तद्विप्रासो विपन्यवो जागृवागुंसः समिन्धते विष्णोर्यत्परमं पदं पर्याप्त्या अनन्तरायाय सर्वस्तमोतिरात्र उत्तममहर्भवति सर्वस्याप्त्यै सर्वस्य जित्यै सर्वमेव तेनाप्नोति सर्वं जयति। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। हरि ओम तत्सत्। धन्यवादाः। पुनर्मिलामः।